Right. Hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm Karina, living L6S, where I live, breathe, do continuous improvement. We're continuing with our mini-series of Powerplant, and we're in the section called Ignition and Starting Systems. Question: what component of a dual magneto is shared by both ignition systems? Answer: rotating magnet. Note, a dual or double magneto has a single rotating magnet, but it has two sets of breaker points, two high tension coils, and two capacitors. Question: what would be the result if a magneto breaker point mainspring did not have sufficient tension? Answer: the points will float or bounce. Note, if the breaker point mainspring, the spring on which the movable breaker point is mounted, does not have sufficient tension, the points will float or bounce. This can cause the engine to miss at high speed. Question: the secondary coil of a magneto is grounded through. Answer: primary coil. Question: in the aircraft magneto system, if the P lead, Papa lead, is disconnected, the magneto will be. Answer: on, regardless of ignition switch position. Question: refer to figure 5. With power applied to the bus bar, what wire supplies standby power to the starter relay contact? You're gonna have to pause to look at this image. Okay, so with the power applied to the bus, the wires supplying standby power to the starter relay contact will be. Answer: number 4, wire number 4. Question: refer to the same figure. With power applied to the bus bar, what switch changes will allow the ignition exciters to test switch to function? Answer: engine master switch and ignition switch. Note, the engine master switch must be on in its up position, and the igniter switch must be on also in its up position. Refer to the same image. Question: the type of system depicted is capable of operating with. Answer: either battery or external power. Question: refer to the same image. If wire number 8 is broken or disconnected after starter rotation is initiated and the power lever is advanced, the. Answer: starting sequence will continue normally. Note, if wire number 8 is broken or disconnected after the start sequence has begun, the starting sequence will continue normally. Wire number 8 supplies current to the starter relay coil, but when the starter relay contacts are closed, current flowing through the series starter coil in the starter generator causes the coil in the undercurrent relay to produce a strong enough field to close its contacts. Current from the bus flowing through the undercurrent relay contacts holds the starter relay coil energized, and the start sequence continues normally. When the starter switch is placed in the down position or stop position, or when the starter generator requires too little current to hold the undercurrent relay closed, the starter relay contact will open and discontinue the starter sequence. Question: refer to the same image. When an external power source is connected to the aircraft, then what? Answer: the battery cannot be connected to the bus. So you can't have external power and battery power on at the same time. Question: the purpose of an undercurrent relay in a starter generator system is to. Answer: Disconnect power from the starter generator and ignition when sufficient engine speed is reached. Question. In a typical starter generator system, under which of the following starting circumstances may it be necessary to use the start-stop switch? Answer. On a hung start. Hung start. This is a trick question. Refer to the same image. Which malfunctions will allow the igniter to operate when tested but be inoperative during a start attempt? You can test it, but it won't operate. Answer. Conductor number 10 is broken, or conductor number 12 is broken. All right, so let's see what we got here. I'm looking at the image. Number 10 is here. Oops. So number 10 here travels a lot. And then number 12 is kind of next to it, but on the other side of the power relay, right here. Okay. Question. Refer to the same image. Which malfunctions will allow the igniters to operate normally during start but be inoperative when tested? Answer. Wire 14 or 15. 14 or 15 are right down here, and it says test right down here. All right. Question. When using an electric starter motor, current usage is, answer, is highest at the start of motor rotation. This is a trick question. Electric starter motor current usage is highest at the start of motor rotation. Makes sense, right? Question. When using an electric starter motor, the current flow through its what? Answer. It's highest at the start of motor rotation. Note, electric starter motors are series wound for their high starting torque. So you need a lot of torque to get the motor moving, but once it's moving, it doesn't need as much juice to keep it going. Question. The primary advantage of pneumatic air turbine starters over comparable electric starters for turbine engines is, answer, high power to weight ratio. High power to weight ratio. Question. A clicking sound heard at engine coast down in a pneumatic starter incorporating a sprang, S-P-R-A-G, sprang, clutch ratchet assembly is an indication of, answer, the PAWLS, P-A-W-L-S, PAWLS, recontacting and riding on the ratchet gear. Okay, question. Pneumatic starters are usually designed with what types of airflow impingement system? Answer, radial inward flow turbine and axial flow turbines. Question. Inspection of pneumatic starters by maintenance technician usually includes checking the, answer, oil level and magnetic drain plug condition. Question. Air turbine starters are generally designed so that reduction gear distress or damage may be detected by, answer, inspection of a magnetic chip detector. Inspection of a magnetic chip detector. They're detecting flakes or shavings of metal. Question. Airflow to the pneumatic starter from the ground unit is normally prevented from causing starter overspeed during engine start by? Answer: activation of a flyweight cutout switch. Note, if the ground power unit supplies enough compressed air to the pneumatic starter to cause it to overspeed, a centrifugal cutout de-energizes the solenoid and the butterfly valve returns to its closed position, shutting off the air to the starter. Question: a safety feature usually employed in pneumatic starters that is used in the clutch does not release from the engine drive at the proper time during start is the? Answer: drive shaft shear point. Drive shaft shear point. Question: a safety feature usually employed in direct cranking starters that is used to prevent the starter from reaching burst speed is the? Answer: stator nozzle design that chokes airflow and stabilizes turbine wheel speed. Question: in the event a pneumatic start valve will not operate and the manual override must be used, the starter T-handle must be closed at the scheduled starter dropout because? Answer: the starter will overspeed at a given N2. Note, when manually operating an air turbine starter by using the T-handle, it is important that the T-handle be turned to the closed position when the N2 reaches specified RPMs. If the valve is closed at this time, the starter will overspeed. All right, next section, fuel metering systems. Question: what factor is not used in the operation of an aircraft gas turbine engine fuel control unit? Answer: power lever position. Note, the fuel control unit on an aircraft gas turbine engine senses, among other parameters, compressed inlet air, temperature, and power lever position. Gas turbine engines do not have a mixture control. Question: in order to stabilize cams, springs, linkages within the fuel control, manufacturers generally recommend that all final turbine engine trim adjustments be made in? Answer: increase direction. This is a trick question. You want it final adjustments to be made in the increase direction. Question: when trimming a turbine engine, the fuel control is adjusted to? Answer: it's set to idle RPM and maximum speed, or EPR. Question: in an electronic engine control, EEC, is a system that receives engine operating information and? Answer: and it adjusts a standard hydromechanical fuel control unit, FCU, to obtain the most effective engine operation. Question: a full authority electronic engine control, EEC, is a system that receives all of the necessary data for engine operation and? Answer: develops the commands to various actuators to control engine parameters. Note, this includes starting, accelerating, decelerating, takeoff, climb, cruise, and idle. It receives data from the aircraft and the engine systems, provides data to the aircraft system, and issues commands to the engine control actuator. It's kind of like the conductor, full authority of your instruments. Question: in a supervisory EEC system, any fault in the EEC, electronic engine control, that adversely affects engine operations? Answer: causes an immediate reversion to control by the hydromechanical fuel control unit. So it's a safety feature and it will revert to the control to the hydromechanical control unit. Question. The active clearance control ACC portion of an EEC electronic engine control system aids turbine engine efficiency by answer ensuring turbine blade to engine case clearances are kept to a minimum by controlling case temperature. This is a trick question. Question. What should be checked, changed to ensure the validity of turbine engine performance check if an alternate fuel is to be used? Answer. Fuel specific gravity setting. Note, different turbine engine fuels have different heat energy content. When making a run-up for a performance check, the fuel-specific gravity setting on the fuel control must be changed to give validity to the check. Overthunk that one, my bad. Question. Prior to performing engine trimming, you should answer obtain a true temperature reading comparable to that of the air that enters the engine. Question. An aircraft should be facing into the wind when trimming an engine. However, if the velocity of the wind blowing into the intake is excessive, it is likely to cause a answer a false high compression and turbine discharge pressure, and a subsequent low trim. Question. Generally, the practice when trimming an engine is to answer turn all accessory bleed air off. Question. Which of the following best describes the function of an automatic mixture control, also known as AMC? Answer. It compensates for the change in air density due to temperature and altitude. Question. On a float type carburetor, the purpose of the economizer valve is to answer provide a rich mixture and cooling at maximum power output. Question. The fuel metering force of a conventional float type carburetor in its normal operating range is the difference between the pressure acting on the discharge nozzle located within the venturi and the pressure of answer acting on the fuel in the float chamber. Question. If the main air bleed of a float type carburetor becomes clogged, the engine will run answer rich at rated power. It'll run rich. Note, it will have no effect on the mixture at idle because the idling system does not use the main air bleed. Trick question. Question. Which method is commonly used to adjust the level of a float in a float type carburetor? Answer. Add or remove shims under the needle valve seat. Question. What is the possible cause of an engine running rich at full throttle if it is equipped with a float type carburetor? Answer. Clogged main air bleed. Question. One of the things a metering orifice in a main air bleed helps to accomplish at a given altitude in a carburetor is answer better fuel vaporization and control of fuel discharge, especially at lower engine speeds. Question. A punctured float in a float-type carburetor will cause the fuel level to, answer, rise and enrich the mixture. Note, it has less buoyancy, so the higher level of fuel in the float bowl will enrich the mixture. Question. The back suction mixture control system operates by, answer, varying the pressure acting on the fuel in the float chamber. Question. If an aircraft engine is equipped with carburetor that is not compensated for altitude and temperature variations, the air-fuel mixture will become, answer, richer as either the altitude or temperature increases. So if the temperature increases, it becomes richer. If the altitude increases, it becomes richer. Question. Float-type carburetors which are equipped with economizers are normally set for, answer, their leanest practical mixture delivery at cruising speeds and enriched by means of the economizer system at higher power settings. So at cruise control, we're a lean, mean fighting machine, but at higher powers or higher power setting, we're in economy. Question. If a float type carburetor becomes flooded, the condition is most likely caused by, answer, a leaking needle valve and seat assembly. Leaking needle valve and seat assembly. Question. If an engine is equipped with a float type carburetor and the engine runs excessively rich at a full throttle, a possible cause of the trouble is a clogged what? Answer, main air bleed. You see a pattern here? Question. What occurs when a back suction type mixture control is placed in the idle cutoff? Idle cutoff. Answer, the float chamber will be vented to a negative pressure area. All right, I'm going to continue in the next episode of fuel metering systems. In the meantime, study hard and I'll see you in the next video.